Welcome into Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio, June 1st. Nathan Zagura, Jason Gibbs
Where
with
did
you.
May go?
Gone. See ya.
Sad.
Things
are moving way too fast.
They are. We don't want to rush it, but things
No.
right now are quite lovely here. Another great weather day here in Cleveland, but there may not be clouds in the sky, but there is a cloud right now, I would say, over all of us who love Jim Donovan, all of us who've gotten the chance to know him, the chance to work with him, and everybody who's gotten the chance to ever listen to him. You know that Jim Donovan is a part of your family. He's a part of your life. He's a part of your upbringing, as it were. He's a part of some of the best sports memories you've ever had. He's probably been a part of some of the worst sports memories that you've ever had, unfortunately, and hopefully some better ones are still to come. And everybody, if you haven't heard the news yet, I will allow Jim Donovan himself to share with you, give you an update on his health. Here's from his message to you, the fans, courtesy of WKYC.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome in. This is the Wednesday edition of Front Row. I'm Jim Donovan. And yes, there is a story to the new look and hairstyle that I am sporting here tonight. And I think tonight we're going to take a couple of moments here to tell you the story, behind the look. So we'll start this way. It was about a year and a half ago that I noticed that something was amiss with my health. And if you've known me and if you've followed me through the years here at Channel 3 and with the Cleveland Browns, you know that I've had a long battle with leukemia to the point where I had a bone marrow transplant about 11 and a half years ago. Well, my concerns were confirmed. And by that, I mean, it was told to me that I had had a relapse of leukemia. The disease had come back. So for the last year and a half, I have been getting treatment for that with various forms of chemotherapy, some with intravenous and others with oral chemo drugs. And for the most part, those worked pretty well. But things change, and things have changed for me in my case. And so we're going to have to go with a different treatment plan, more aggressive treatment plan, which has already started, and I'm underway with that. That's the badge of honor that you get. In chemotherapy, you begin to lose your hair. So I'm underway with that. This is going to be kind of a long and winding road through this treatment plan because it is going to be pretty aggressive. But the goal is, got to get better, got to get healthy, got to move on. I know the deal. I've done it before, and I plan to do it once again. I want to thank everybody concerned here at Channel 3 and with the Cleveland Browns for an amazing amount of support. I have an incredible family. My wife, Cheryl, is amazing, my number one go-to person, my advocate. I have an amazing daughter in my daughter, Megan. We were knocked for a little bit of a loop when we got the news about this, but we've kind of steadied ourselves, and we're ready to go once again, ready for the fight. I have total confidence in the medical professionals who are handling my case, the doctors, the nurses, the medical professionals at the Seidman Cancer Center at University Hospitals. They have done an amazing job for many, many years treating me, and I am ready to put my case in their hands once again, and I know they're going to do an amazing job for me. Now, as far as my availability through all of this, I will be here at Channel 3 and on the radio as much as I can be. But there are going to be periods of time where I might not be with you. That might be for a day, might be for a longer period of time. We'll just have to see how the treatment plan goes and see how I react to it all. Know this, that I have always had you in my thoughts, and I adore being with you as we go through the ups and sometimes the downs of Cleveland sports. So you are in my thoughts, and you are a goal for me to be back with you here at Channel 3, down at the stadium, calling the Browns
30
booth, and I'll be there when I can or as much as I can. But right now, duty calls, and the duty is I have to get better. I plan on getting better, and I think that everything right now is pointing in a positive way. So
10
behind everything that is going on with me, and thanks very much for listening. Thank you so much for all of your support. Thanks for all the love.
You're going up.
And that's Jim Donovan relaying the news that his leukemia has returned and that they will be fighting it, obviously, aggressively and diligently to hopefully get him back where he belongs. And that's in the booth. It's on Channel 3 and being healthy. And that's what matters the most for people who, some of us have just listened to him. Some of us have had the pleasure of meeting him. Some of us have had the pleasure of working with him. Jim Donovan is an institution in this town. He's an institution really in this community and just somebody who is as talented as he is at what he does. He is off air just such a wonderful human being and somebody that you root for. And he's beaten this before, and we certainly all hope and believe that he will beat it again. And just listening to him there, and you could hear it in his voice, and he said a couple of things. One was that, I've always have you in my thoughts, and I go back to what I would consider to be, his most famous call in the decade that I've been with him, which is when the Browns clinched the playoff berth over the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said, the only thing missing is all of you. And it was so powerful at that moment. I got tears in my eyes then. I have tears in my eyes now because that is true. And there's nothing in life that is everything in life is enhanced by sharing it with others and those that you care about. And anybody who, has listened to Jim knows that he cares about everybody in his audience. He cares about, obviously, his family, which he referenced there. And we've had Megan in the booth with us, at times doing some stats and being there. And so he is just a great, great human being. And for me to get to work with him, on the sidelines for 9 years and then last year in the booth with him has been such an honor. I think that we here in Cleveland are blessed to have one of the best, if not the best ever, to do it on the radio side as the voice of our team. And so certainly a lot of thoughts, prayers. Everybody is wishing the best to Jim and his family for a speedy recovery. And we know that he's going to beat this. We know he's going to be back in that booth. And we know that hopefully, this is a season of great consequence and he gets to call more highlights for all of us to enjoy, like highlights that kind of bring us all together. People know Run, William, Run. People know exactly, Chubba Wubba Hubba. They know all
Run into the river.
Run into the river down there in Cincinnati. It's just he's such a great person, obviously an immensely talented broadcaster, but such a great person. And your heart just goes out to him and his family that he's going to have to battle again. He's battled, he's overcome it, and now he will fight again. But we absolutely love Jim Donovan. I love Jim Donovan. I know Gibbe does, and we are blessed to have him in our lives and to also have been able to work with him in the professional capacity at which he excels on a level that very few in his profession honestly ever reach. The Browns issued a statement last night from Dee and Jimmy Haslam, the owners, said, quote, "Our thoughts and the thoughts of the entire organization are with Jim and his family right now in this difficult time. There is no better representative of the Cleveland Browns. He's as tough as they come, proved as much in his previous battle. We're all behind Jim and we'll do everything we can to support him. We look forward to him winning this fight, being around the team, and continuing to call our games during this season." And Gibbe, listen, one of the great things with the Browns, the relationship we have with University Hospitals and Seidman Cancer Institute, that he is in great hands, and I know that he is ready to go through this and to fight, and he and I have gotten a chance to exchange messages, and it sounds like the initial returns are positive, and that's all we can hope for, that we continue down this positive path for Jim Donovan, who, like I said, you guys get to hear him in the booth, and boy, he is so good at what he does, but he is so generous outside of that. When we're on road trips, he is so funny. He is hilarious, especially when he gets into his Boston accent and tells the stories. But he's so great.
He's our friend.
Yes, absolutely. And he feels like he's family. He's honest to goodness. And I feel like he probably feels, to everybody listening right now, you feel like Jim Donovan is a part of your family.
Yes.
And been a part of your childhood or been a part of some of the great moments of your adult life with this team that at times is, like we said, it's been tough, but at other times it's been phenomenal. And Jim Donovan is the voice of that. Yeah. He is our friend. He is so great. I think I wish that people would get an opportunity to see Jim,
oh my God,
out at a restaurant the night before, how seriously he takes his craft.
Yes. The
dedication, the time that he puts in it it's not an accident that he's as good as he is. He has unbelievable talent, but he also puts in the work to maximize that talent. And like I said, he is hysterical. He has a biting wit. He can be as sarcastic as anybody. And he also has that Boston, he can be a scrapper. Don't cross Jim Donovan.
No.
You know what I mean?
Nope.
And leukemia, you have crossed him. He has beaten you once, and he's going to beat your butt again.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the right attitude. His family's got the right attitude. I know he said it. It was a little bit it was a speed bump when they got the word here in the last few weeks, and he's like, I'm just gonna hit it head on. He's like, I'll be back in the booth. Like, don't worry. And I'm like, okay,
Yep.
you're Jim. Like, I get it. Like, we'll keep it ready for you. Whatever we can do for you.
Yes.
Whatever needs to be done, like, we'll make it work. We'll make it happen. Just want you to get better.
Just
like,
get better.
Focus on you, because I think he's not one to do that necessarily all the time. Yeah, I mean,
he's so generous.
He
is so generous.
Is always worried about everybody else.
Yep.
His family, his friends. How's this person? Have you talked to this person? How they doing? Hey, what about this person? What happened to them? Like, in the organization, because people move on in the off season. He goes, where's that person at now? Like, what is everybody good? Everybody, are they doing okay? And
He's a special human.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I can just tell you from my perspective, I'm sure that you have been the same, but once he made the announcement public, I mean, my phone was flooded with people and messages of support, and obviously I tweeted a little message out there, but the responses to that, and I read them all, and I thank all of you for your love and support for Jim. But it's just... He is special. We are all behind him. We're all rooting for him, and we cannot wait to see him back at full strength and be the great Jim Donovan that we all know and love.
And I think he will be back sooner rather than later. He mentioned it. He's going to do whatever he can. There might be days he misses, might be a little bit longer that he misses. Just kind of depends how things go. And, but at the end of the day, he's been through it. He knows what it takes to overcome it. He is very, very confident that they've caught it early, and he's got a great group of people at UH and the Seidman Cancer Center that have been by his side and been through this before, and they will be there. And, God bless them and the work they do, because we talk on the radio every day. Those people are saving lives.
Yeah, and that's when we go and we do those shows. We do the remotes from there, and we have the head of the Seidman Institute with us, and that's why you and I, as much as we're dreading it, we're going to go get our colonoscopies. He said that, you got to get on it.
I've had mine. No.
I guess it was Beatbox who said he was a Beatbox 4. I am not even 45 yet. I'm going to get there. But anyway, it's just, this was one of those where it hurt you. And I was kind of in a little bit of a fog yesterday after getting the news, and, just... We have so much love in this community. This is such a great area of the world, Northeast Ohio, and people know that, when you are a legend in Northeast Ohio, as Jim is, and really to the Browns fans around the world, we joke the world's team, but it's true. There are Browns fans all around the world, and I can't tell you how many messages I get from people who listen to the radio broadcast literally from all over the world. And so Jim Donovan's voice is the voice of the Browns. It is the voice of as I said, of a community, of a family here that all love the Cleveland Browns and, frankly, all love Jim Donovan. And so we wish him the absolute best. Jim, we love you. Get well soon. Get back. I can't wait to have you on Browns Daily, because we still got a while to go for games, and I can't wait to be back in the booth beside you, just kind of watching and learning. And
if I know him,
what you
he'll
do.
Be at practice next week. He'll be at minicamp, because that's what he knows. That's what he loves.
Good. I can't wait to hug him.
Yep.
Can't wait to hug him. Well, we love you, Jim, and we'll be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily after this. All right, welcome back to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio. Our hot topics of the day presented by Vivid Seats, an official fan experience partner of the Cleveland Browns. And one of the things that stood out, we talked about a lot of the offense yesterday from OTAs, but another thing that stood out really was Jim Schwartz. Just his presence out there, the hearing from Jim Schwartz, hearing him during the plays, talking to the players, the energy he brings.
I was setting up for podium, and I'm nowhere close. Like, we were on the far practice field. 5 minutes into me setting up, I stood up and I'm like, someone is not having a good day on the football team. And I know for a fact that the person that's voicing their displeasure is none other than our defensive coordinator. And it kept going for a little while. Then it stopped, and I was like, all right, I think the message has been delivered, and we're performing a little bit better.
Well, what I love about Jim Schwartz is a couple of things. Number one, guy has got his track record speaks for itself. Number two, he is incredibly intelligent, charismatic, persuasive, and he is a tremendous speaker, both motivationally and otherwise, just as a conveyor of information. And number three, it is readily apparent that he has the full respect of that side of the football. And I'm sure he has the respect of everybody out there, but he has the full respect of everybody on the defensive side of the football.
You better.
Well, yeah, or you're not going to be around. You're not going to be around for long. I talked to Jordan Kunashik at the golf outing, and Schwartz came out that first day wearing the 51 for Kunashik because he had done everything the right way and been such a pro. And we heard Bubba Ventrone talk about our guy Jordan as well. But I think that he is very much a player's coach, but don't mistake that for soft. I think he is able to relate to them, and he has the respect given what he's accomplished in this league. But he is a guy that is going to be no-nonsense, straightforward, and that even extends into press conferences. He is going to tell you, when you listen to what we play next, he's going to tell you who the Browns are, what we're going to be, and he's going to say, you try to beat us. We're not going to try to confuse you. We're not going to try to go out there and then ultimately maybe confuse ourselves. We're going to play simplistic, straightforward, attacking defense, and we are going to get after the quarterback.
Him and Bubba. Here's what we're doing. Good luck.
Good luck. We feel like we got the guys, and we feel like we can go out there and we can get it done at a high level, and that's what Jim Schwartz is expecting from what is now an incredibly talented defense. Take a listen to Jim Schwartz, Browns defensive coordinator, from the podium yesterday.
How are things coming along with this defense?
I don't know. It's too soon to tell. It's too soon to really get a judge of where we are when you're not.
You guys are down.
There's things that you can do with walkthroughs. There's things you can do tempo and things like that. But to really play defense, you need to be physical. That's the number one thing. You need to be physical. And we can't do that now. So it's really hard to say where we are. We're making progress on schemes and communication. We were pretty crappy early on. We needed a little kick in the butt to get going a little bit today. But communication, getting some things under our feet, we're getting a little bit better there. But the road will hit the rubber when training camp comes, and we can play with toughness and effort and physicality.
They've really overhauled this defense, especially up front, the defensive line. How much did they sort of reach out to you and say, hey, what specifically, do you want in this spot? How much input did they take from you to make some of those moves?
Well, I'm not going to speak on that. Those decisions are Andrew's and Kevin's decisions to make. But the point of it is there is communication. Oh, I'm sorry. Bad hands. There is communication of how players are going to be used, right? And what's going to be asked of them, and does this player fit? What do you think? Things like that. But final determination. Like I said before, this is Andrew and Kevin's and team. It's my job to coach the guys that they give us. But I'm really happy with the guys up front. The additions they've made, I think they fit us really well. I think we got a lot of interchangeable spots. We'll play a lot of guys up front, right? We're not just going to play 4 guys. We'll roll through 8, maybe even 9 guys at times, trying to keep guys fresh and keep them throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. You guys will get tired of my baseball analogies, but it's a lot of D-line is a lot like throwing relief in major leagues now. right? Like these guys coming in from the pen throwing 100, 101. I watched that guy from the Guardians last night and the guy from the Orioles last night. Both of them are throwing over 100. Well, you can't unless you're Nolan Ryan, you can't do that stuff for 7, 8 innings. And same thing with D-line. The tempo that we want those guys to play, we're going to need to rotate fresh troops in. Offensive lines don't sub, but we can. We can keep the pressure on those guys, and we can play to a high standard with that depth. And that's an important part of what we do.
How much does the
How do you feel about your upgraded pass rush rotation? And I know it will include more guys, but to now have Bobo in there and to have Z in there with Miles, how do you feel about that group?
Yeah, we'll find our personality in training camp, and that's part of what training camp's going to be for us, is finding out what our best combinations are and how guys play off of each other. That's going to be important. I think that we do have some flexibility there, particularly a guy like Zadarius, who's a very effective inside rusher. We have some young developing players here that have had good off season so far. Alex and Jordan, both of them have stood out in a lot of stuff, and I think both of them can contribute inside. But the flexibility is important. For matchups in the game, moving guys around a little bit, you'll probably see a little bit more moving guys around maybe than they've done in the past. But it's all about just creating good matchups and finding out what the guys can do the best. We're going in with an open mind. We're not making any determinations. May 30th? May 30th from 31st? Yeah, we don't have a game this week.
How much does the addition of Zadarius elevate, or at least in your mind change, maybe the prospects of how you approach and feel like you're going to be able to do what you really want to do up front?
He's a good addition. It's not going to. We're still going to do what we do, but he is a good addition to add in. Like I said, he's got some flexibility. He can play right. He can play left. He's had a lot of success in this league. He brings great veteran leadership to us. There's plenty of positives right there. But I just go back to that multidimensional ability. You can move guys around. I won't keep any secrets. You'll probably see 5 guys in pass rush. A lot of times we'll probably have 5 of them out there. We'll drop a guy occasionally, but we'll play some down 5 stuff, and that all goes back to the corners that we have. And it's hard to play 5 down if your corners aren't any good, but we got good corners, and we're going to rely on those guys too. So it's all part of the pass rush.
Jim, have you had any interactions with Garrett during his absence, and how do you feel about his absence?
Those questions aren't for me. We'll keep conversations between players to where they belong, between coach and a player, and he'll be here and he'll be ready when the time comes.
Jim, when you bench corners, do you like to have one guy as your nickel, or do you believe in rotating guys in that spot?
You mean rotating like in a game, like the D line?
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be rotating guys within a game, but what you might see, depending on the matchup, you might see different players playing nickel in different games. A bigger guy that's that plays more physical. We might have one guy in there, a small, shifty, quick guy. We might have somebody else in there. There's the way we play our coverage. There's a lot of carryover between corner and nickel. It's not its own specific position. So I think it'll make us compartmentalize and be able to move guys around a little bit more, just to play some matchups.
Is that one of the reasons why Greg Newsome is probably maybe a little bit happier and excited about what his role is going to be this year, whereas he was just a little bit tentative about having to play nickel all the time?
My interactions with Greg have been awesome. He's been willing to do whatever we've asked, but the happiness of players is not my concern. And that's not going to be the determining factor of how we play guys or anything else. We're going to do what's best for our team. We're going to play guys in the best matchups, and our job as coaches is to put guys in positions that they can succeed. But I don't want to make that sound like a negative on Greg, because he's been outstanding. He's had some really good reps in this stuff. He's played outside corner. He's played inside corner. He's going to be an important part of our defense, whether he's playing inside, outside, or rushing the passer.
When you have 2 corners only on the field, who's the second corner right now?
We don't have a depth chart right now, Tone. And I've been preaching that to the players right now. Everybody's trying to get about the same number of reps. Depth charts will come as we get toward the end of training camp. You guys were out there. I mean, you probably saw rookies out there against, when Deshaun Watson was a quarterback. We're going to rotate. We're going to rotate on our own basis and expect guys to be able to compete against whoever's out there. So,
Training camp, there'll be a competition. I know every position is.
Yeah, we're going to compete. We're going to chart everything we can, and we're going to play the guys that give us the best chance to win, and that fit the best in the positions and everything else. But yeah, it's way too early to talk about depth charts or who's leading and stuff like that. Everybody here is competing against themselves first and foremost.
The linebacker group is one position group that wasn't altered much this offseason. You added a player, Michael Adams, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's pretty much guys we've seen before. The confidence level in that position group must have been high, not to make any additions. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good returning group. There's a lot of different types of players there that we can use a lot of different ways. Guys that have a lot of experience in the league, and they've been very well coached. Tarv is an outstanding coach. So all those things, all sort of combine to, to be what you've seen.
How valuable is it to have a guy like Rodney familiar with you, familiar with your scheme when you come into a new team?
Yeah, I mean, he could play a game right now. We changed the terminology. You try to roll terminology and signals over just so people you played before don't have a good grasp. So the first couple of days, that sort of threw him for a loop, But, veteran players like that have played the techniques, it comes quickly for those guys. And, there's going to come a lot of times where we play three safeties on the field. And he's a part of that. How that happens, I don't know. Whether it's, Grant Delpit going down low and playing like a dime position, or Grant staying deep and a guy like Rodney going down. We value flexibility in those players. We value multidimensional skills. Right now, they're all playing all the positions. But again, by the end of training camp, we'll sort of get a feel for where we are and what our best matchups are, and we'll go with that. But whether it's first and second down or third down, the league is trending toward more wide receivers on the field, more tight ends that are really wide receivers, and you need people that can neutralize those guys. You need guys that can cover these tough matchup running backs, these tough matchup tight ends, and they can play in the box, play deep, play man, and I think our safeties fit that.
So how often we see a three safety percentage-wise?
Oh, a three safety? Well, it really it's going to depend on the game and things like that, but it's definitely a package that as we get going, we don't really run it right now, but in training camp you'll see it a significant amount. And then how much we play, it'll depend on if it's our best matchup and who we're playing and all those things. But our job in training camp is to get ready for all those different situations. And again, you can't play three safety packages with sort of one-trick ponies. Your guys have to be flexible, have to have some multi-dimensional skills.
That physicality you want, is it harder to bring out of certain guys when maybe they haven't, been playing like that in the past?
Well, right now it's just trying to get mentality, and it's really now it's more coming from meeting room, things that we're preaching, and individual periods. Because I'm bad, like I'm a right-hander here. I don't have to box you out. But when we have specific rules that we have to abide by here, and we're trying to keep the contact down, and we're trying to work with the other players, and it's not a competition of who can win a spot. All those things that are things that defenses do, and so what you see in team periods, what you see even in 7-on-7 periods, that's not where we're going to develop that. We'll develop it in individual periods, and then we'll develop that through training camp mentality, and then just the setting a standard. We have some physical players, and we want to play with effort. We want to be physical, and we want to have a little personality. And those are the things that we're going to emphasize as we go. All the good defenses have those things.
Jim, you go back to
Last one here.
when players played every preseason game. It's changed, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you think, would you like to play your guys more or less? You know, it's the head coach.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and that's a long way away. I'd say this, it depends, you know, and I know that's a crappy answer, but it does depend. It depends on, you know, where we are in training camp, you know, how much more do we need to see, what kind of work we get against teams like the Eagles. You know, sometimes, you know, some of the things you're looking at are back of the roster stuff, and you want to play those guys as much as you can. Sometimes and there's so many different agendas. I mean, people play preseason a lot of different ways. Things obviously have changed a lot over the years. I mean, the off-season program used to be 14 weeks, you know, and, you know, it's obviously a lot shorter now, and you adjust with the times, and we'll see. But, you know, we'll have the guys ready. So
Last one for Scott.
no, I've got one more.
About
No.
standing in front of the center. I don't know if I've noticed.
Well, I'm just out there right now, just trying to hear guys communicate and you know, just have a little presence out there, and you know, those things. I don't know if I'll be out there all the time. You know, right now when things are new,
got a minute left.
real close to them, and I can hear where the communication is, and you know, that means like you can feel the players. It's one of the reasons as a play caller, as a defensive coordinator, I've always liked to have been on the sideline, because you don't make calls in a vacuum. You have to really feel the players. You know, you say, like, you know, hey, can you get that guy covered? And a guy say, yeah, I can get him covered, and yeah, I can get him covered. It could be two different things, and you need to be there in the
30.
and feel the guys as much as we're trying to put in new schemes and communication and things like that. Us as coaches, we're learning the players, you know, and we're learning, you know, their different personalities, and we're learning where they're going to need to be pushed, and you know, where you know,
10.
you know, things are going to fall. So it's a learning experience for us too, and I like to be out there just in the mix and
Coming back in here.
out there.
All right, that's Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. Gibby and I will react to a lot of the stuff in there, because there's some very good stuff there from Jim Schwartz when we return on Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet. The Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio. Experience full throttle family fun at Monster Jam, where world-class athletes in their 12,000-pound monster trucks tear up the dirt in wide-open competitions of speed and skill. The most action-packed motorsports experience for families in the world today returns to Cleveland Browns Stadium this Saturday, June 3rd. For more information, go to clevelandbrownsstadium.com. Don't be laughing at me, Gary. To be fair,
it's a mouthful.
To be fair, when you look at if you look at this, there's something in the fonting where you don't get the full letters. The letters are kind of a little cut off. So, I thought maybe it was an F and it was a T. Yeah, okay, all right. Moving on. Jim Schwartz.
Impressive.
I love listening to him. So 5 down, what does that mean? We're going to rush. Think about what the Eagles did. They would have 5 down linemen, 2 of them on the outside, 3 kind of across the middle. It's kind of like what you think of a 3-4 front, but maybe not necessarily with the outside 2 guys standing up. Maybe you can have them all down, but you can rush 5, you can rush 4, and then drop somebody, and they don't know who's going to be the dropper. But this is a team now. You think about Miles, Obo, and as well as Zadarius Smith. Miles and Zadarius, Obo. Miles can be inside, Zadarius can be inside. We've heard a lot of talk about Alex Wright. You know, he could be kind of a fourth end for you in those situations, but play him on the inside so that you keep either Zadarius and Miles outside. I think Obo will be outside almost exclusively, and then you'll have one of the other 2 on the other side, somebody standing up, walking around. There's just a lot that you can do. When you bring 5, you are going to have one-on-one matchups on your line. If you can win those matchups, you can force the ball to come out quickly. As Jim Schwartz said at the beginning, you know, talking to quarterbacks, the thing that gives them the most problems is pressure. And so we've got to generate pressure. And when you feel like you have a secondary like we do, and you've got the corners that we do, your ability to play man behind that so that you've got sticky coverage, you have tight coverage, you have the ball coming out quickly, guys near their receivers, that's how you get interceptions. That's how you get your hand on the football, and that's going to be the aggressive style that the Browns will play. And he's talking about that. And I think that he's so candid. I love that, not only about what we're going to do, but also what we are doing now. So this is May. Don't read in that there are no depth charts right now. We're not showing our 3 safety package. Yes, Rodney McLeod's going to be out there a bit for us. We've got so much versatility. Wait till training camp, and that, as we know, starts June 22nd.
He said that, but he also said we were kind of garbage yesterday to start practice.
Early.
But we recovered and we came back, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, you could hear Jim Schwartz across the practice field.
Yep.
Then you didn't, which meant that the defense was starting to play a little bit better.
And I think, you know, even continuing today, you really saw what happens with, you know, this style of defense. And you saw just kind of the evolution of this offense even today out there as the Browns continued with their OTA program. They had one today. They'll have one more tomorrow.
Yeah, they do have one tomorrow. Normally you're done on Thursday. But
yeah, this week I think with the golf outing being on Tuesday
the holiday on Monday.
And the holiday on Monday, everything got bumped back a bit. And so you're going to get those OTAs 3 this week. And then next week will be the mandatory minicamp Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All of those are open to the media. I will say today, Deshaun Watson continues to throw darts. He had a phenomenal day today. The defense, though, did make some plays. We saw some interceptions on the back end from some of the young players that are fighting to make this roster, make this football team. And so you saw that. And I'd also say Dorian Thompson-Robinson continues to impress me. His ability to throw the football and really kind of drive the football has stood out to me, and his accuracy. But, you know, DPJ is looking good. You know, Elijah Moore on the very first practice of the play of the 7-on-7s today. It was a touchdown red zone drill. I think the first 4 passes Watson threw may have all been touchdowns today. So they were just – that offense is really starting to click, the confidence in that passing game. And, you know, then the defense would get some things back as well as I mentioned. But it's going to be fun. And I think when we do get to training camp, when you're seeing full 11-on-11, this team is going to be as talented as we've seen it be. And I think that's going to be very apparent watching them.
So to play off of that, it's interesting because this is the first year with the new rule. There's not going to be a cut-down day after, like, the first 2 preseason games or, you know, after the first preseason game. There is one cut-down day.
Yep.
And it's the Tuesday after the final preseason game, which we play on Saturday. I mean, you're going to have to cut a lot of guys. There's going to be a number of players that are in this camp right now that are on other NFL rosters. come September.
Yeah.
Some really tough decisions are going to have to be made as we go through this.
And for us, given the nature of the way preseason has changed, the fact that we will be one of 2 teams playing 4 preseason games this year as opposed to 3, which is where it's at now. 4 used to be commonplace, and there would have been a team that have to play 5. We've got a lot of young guys, and we've got a lot of guys that are going to be fighting to, A, make the roster, and B, make the practice squad and stay in this Cleveland Browns program.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a lot of playing time from them. You're going to get to see a lot of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'm excited about that. We're going to see a lot of Cedric Tillman.
The preseason's going to be, I mean, the
it's
second,
entertaining.
The quote second, third, fourth stringers are pretty good players on this roster.
Yep.
Actually, better than pretty good. They are really good.
Yeah, but that's a sign of a good roster, and that's a sign of a good team, and a sign of a team that needs to be a team of consequence when it's all said and done for the reason that you just laid out. This is going to be a very talented roster. It's going to have an opportunity to really go out there and compete with, I think, some of what the best this league has to offer, and now we have got to get it done. It's very much a prove it season. And that's why you've got this talent here. That's why all of these days, this building of the culture, building of the work ethic, building of the professionalism, building the foundations of what this defense is going to be, what our special teams unit is going to be under Bubba Ventrone, how this offense is going to evolve, and boy, is it evolving. You saw MJ Emerson's face yesterday when we asked that question right here at the undisclosed location. That was a big, big smile on his face. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and these are the important steps. Next week, we'll be able to have full coverage day in, day out from minicamp because it's all open to the media, and so you'll have all that access, and that should be a lot of fun. When we come back, we're going to look at a column that was written at Sports Illustrated, taking a look at 10 big-name veterans. Well, I wouldn't say they're all big-name veterans. There are some huge names. There are some,
According to this article, it says 10 NFL star veterans.
Well, we'll take umbrage with some of that, but we'll see if any of these would make sense for the Cleveland Browns, veterans who could be on the move. And by the way, we deduced one of them on our own yesterday, right here on this program, a little bit of a teaser. So we'll have that for you when we come back here, wrapping up hour number 1 on Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio. All right, welcome back in as we wrap up hour number 1 of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio. Nathan Segura, Jason Gibbs, the great Bo Bishop down at the Memorial Tournament in Columbus today.
What a beautiful weekend for the Memorial.
Round 1 action. I was hoping we were going to get a little bit of that on the old tube, but so far we have not. But we will, however, give you a quick check-in with the leaders down there from the Memorial at Jack's Place down in Columbus, or I guess
Wonder
Dublin.
why that's not on.
It said it was on ESPN Plus. Right now, the leader is M. Wallace at 4 under. Matt Wallace 4 under. Mark Hubbard 4 under. Danny Willett, who former major champion, 3 under. Shane Lowry 3 under. Some of the other notables. John Rahm at 2 under. Adam Scott 2 under. Luke Donald, Hideki Matsuyama also at 2 in the group at 2 under. Colin Morikawa is 1 under, shot a 71 today. A lot of these people are in. Hubbard is 4 under. He's on 17. Rahm is in with that 70, as is Scott and Sung J M. So that's your leaderboard right there. Ricky Fowler, even 72. Rory 1 under today as well for the Memorial Tournament getting started. It's got to be a magical day. 77 degrees down there.
It is perfect
wind,
for that course.
It's 6 miles an hour, so no wind. It must be just absolutely perfect. Last year, Billy Horschel won it. $20 million prize, par 72, 7,571 yards. Jeez Louise. They are quite good, are these guys.
A little bit.
They're quite good at golf, indeed. All right, Gibbe.
Thing or not a thing?
Little thing or not a thing. Let's go.
10 NFL star veterans who could still switch teams this offseason. Justin, give us a little traveling music underneath this.
Love it.
Matt Verdame?
Yep, like it.
Sports Illustrated? No idea. The NFL is entering the so-called dead period of the offseason, with OTAs close to wrapping up. The league will be quiet while the 32 rosters are largely set. There's still a chance we see some significant movement of star veterans. Looking around the league, there are a select few who make sense as either cut or trade candidates. Thing or not a thing, not necessarily for the Browns, but that they could be.
Well, I'm going to say for the Browns as well.
Oh,
we'll do.
All right.
We'll give you both.
All right, fine. We'll start with within our own division, the Baltimore Ravens linebacker Patrick Queen.
I think it is a thing that he could be moved. He's in the last year of his deal, but they also can just let him walk at the end of the season. They drafted his replacement. I don't remember the name of the kid, but out of, I think, Clemson. It was a linebacker out of Clemson. So he won't be a Raven in 2024. And they have Roquan Smith, right. So he won't be a Raven in 2024, but could still be a Raven in 2023, and he is not somebody that I would see the Browns trading for.
Let's start. Let's go to the AFC East, I should say. Gabriel Davis, Bills wide receiver. Again, the star portion of the article would lead you to believe we're talking there. Stars.
There are
I'm
some.
not sure about that one.
Gabe Davis was a fantasy darling going into the league last year, and had some pretty good games. He did. He had some very good games, but ultimately the season wasn't quite up to what you thought. 836 yards, 7 touchdowns, averaged 17.4 yards per catch. He is 6'2", 210. He is in the last year of his rookie deal, so certainly you would expect that he will command quite a bit on the open market next year for a guy who's for his career 20 touchdowns in 3 NFL seasons, averages 17 yards a catch. Last year was a career high in receptions and in yards for him. I don't see why they would move him. It doesn't make any sense to me that they would be moving on from Gabe Davis. So I don't think that is a thing. Look, weapons galore. Could the Browns be interested?
You have a star quarterback
maybe,
there in Buffalo.
And I think adding DeAndre Hopkins is a nice add to Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. I don't see them moving on from him. He's been a great value, a 4th-round pick. You get 1 more year out of him. He's going to leave. You'll get a compensatory pick for it if they decide that they cannot afford him. But no, I do not see Gabe Davis being moved this year.
Interesting from a salary cap standpoint for Buffalo. We talked about it last week. Like, this is kind of a make-or-break year for them. I mean, after this season, 9 players next year who have cap hits of at least $10 million.
Jeez.
Yeesh.
Yep.
Up next, within the division, the Cincinnati Bengals and running back Joe Mixon. Thing or not a thing that he could be moved?
I think it very much is a thing that he could be moved. He could be even released. Now, if he did take a salary reduction, which we have not heard ultimately, they will keep him. But Joe Mixon being moved would be more about the subtraction of his contract than I think it would be about somebody going out to acquire Joe Mixon. So we'll see. I think that they're a better team with him. They drafted the kid out of Illinois, whose name escapes me right now. I'm not Dane Brugler in terms of knowing Chase Brown, maybe? Does that sound right?
No, I don't know.
If that's right, I'm gonna be pretty pumped up. I'm gonna look that up for a second. But it's a running back out of Illinois. They drafted in the 5th round. So they've got some running backs, but they still need Chase Brown. Let's go, baby. Cincinnati Bengals. How about that?
Way to pluck that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because many thought the Bengals might release Mixon, which would have saved $7.3 million. However, as a post-June 1st cut, that number balloons to $10 million with a dead cap figure of 2.75.
But they could have done it before and just designated him post-June 1st, as the Browns did with Jadeveon Clowney and John Johnson. So the Browns are about to get $11 million. We're watching people, by the way, mow outside the undisclosed location, and the amount of pollen that is flying around in the air outside of this place right now is terrifying to me.
I'm not going to lie. I don't approve of how they take care of the lawn.
Talk to me. Break it down.
Like,
You're a foremost lawn man.
I'm telling you, it's just kind of how quick can I get it done? They spray the sidewalks. They don't clean off the sidewalks when you're done. Like, take a leaf blower. It's not difficult.
What do you feel about when the clippings just get sprayed everywhere as opposed to going into a bag?
Yeah, or putting them in a certain direction. Like, there's certain ways to do it. And yeah, they're just like, I'm just going to go in a circle and just spray everywhere. Not great. Not great for the mulch. You don't want the dead grass. It'll kill the grass that's alive underneath it. Not that grass is growing much these days. I should know I've got to water a quarter of my yard every day because we just planted new grass. Of course.
But look at the amount of pollen that's in the air, Gibbe.
Yeah, and it wasn't there 20 minutes ago. Not great. I feel like we can be better at this.
All right. Listen, I think that's your purview, too. I think you'd be very good at dishing out that kind of advice.
Thing or not a thing, Jerry Jeudy, Broncos wide receiver, trade or released?
So that one, a lot of smoke to that all offseason. I still think he is somebody that could make sense for the Cleveland Browns, even with all the other moves that were made. If you're looking at kind of a long-term succession planning where he would, ultimately replace probably, Amari perhaps down the road as a younger player. But with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson there, I don't see them giving away weapons. And that's one of the reasons why I think he wasn't traded, nor was Courtland Sutton. So definitely interesting.
I don't see
but
it.
I don't necessarily see it
I don't think
happen.
Sean Payton wants to give away weapons currently.
No, on a rookie deal still? Yeah. Why would you?
To Kansas City we go. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back. I don't know why he's
I don't even know why he's on this list.
I agree.
He was a first-round pick in his 3 seasons.
I know they declined his 5th-year option this spring.
He started off he ran for 800 yards and 4 touchdowns as a rookie. He had 297 yards receiving and a touchdown. So he had that year, he had a total of 1,100 total yards and 5 touchdowns. Then the next year, he's never played more than 13 games in a season. Each of the last 2 years he's played exactly 10 games. Last year, 517 yards rushing, 4 scores, 4.3 yards a carry. Not much of a factor in the receiving game at all. He finishes with 646 total yards and 6 touchdowns. Last year in 10 games, 453 total yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.3 yards a carry. Again,
this guy thinks it's going to happen.
I could see him being out of Kansas City because they like, what they've got in Isaiah Pacheco. Could Clyde Edwards-Helaire be had on the very, very cheap to be, somebody that you would bring in to be kind of like a third down back? If you're looking, now we're talking from the Browns' perspective, maybe. But my guess is he was a first-round pick, so I don't think his number this year actually would be all that cheap at all. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Baltimore, Garrett was Kansas City. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the final year of his rookie deal is making his cap number is 3.4. If they traded him post June 1st, which is where we are now, it would save them $2 million that would be what the team that acquired him would be obligated to. I think would be about $2,085,000. So I don't know that I necessarily see that happening. It would save them they would have 1.357 in dead money. It would be they basically be paying. You'd have to pay his base salary and his workout bonus, which is $100,000. So 1.985 million plus 100,000. So basically 2.085 million.
Yeah,
that feels like a high price. That's more than DeAndre Swift.
So we've gone through half the list. We'll get to the other half at 2:30, but we got a break because Poisal's up.
All right. AP, see? Good stuff here at Gibbe. Anthony Poisal, hour number 2, Cleveland Browns Daily, coming up next. All right, welcome into hour number 2 of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio. Want to remind you that when a medical mistake causes you injury, call the medical malpractice attorneys at 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk and Elk, proud partner of the Cleveland Browns. Time now to go to the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, an official sponsor of the Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. They actually had an area, Gibbe, at number, I think, 16 green, 17 tee at Westwood for the Cleveland Browns Foundation golf outing.
No names, please. I knew a couple gentlemen from our organization that were working it. They said it was quite a lovely experience.
It seemed great. They had a giant lawn chair. They had Twisted Tea, and of course I was on the job. I had to still come and do the evening portion, so I wasn't able to have some of their delicious beverage products, but it was great, and saw some good shots right there. We made a birdie on both of the Twisted Tea holes, so that was a ton of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, gotta like that. All right, let's go to that Twisted Tea hotline now. We bring in Browns staff writer Anthony Poisal. AP, how you doing, brother?
I am doing just fine. First things first, can you guys hear me okay right now? And I'll ask why in a second.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. I am at the stadium right now, obviously not in the undisclosed location.
Sad.
And they just set up some Monster Jam for this weekend, and they just rolled a few of the trucks out. And it got a little loud at first. It happened like right before I hopped on the call here.
Oh,
and
wow.
It looks like they're turning them off now, so we should be good. But, yeah, it's fascinating. I just, all of a sudden, boom, just some big trucks just start rolling out. They just finished up all the hills and dirt and got cars at the 50-yard line and everything. It's honestly insane how quickly they turned it around. When the engines were running, I just wanted to make sure there was no background noise and you guys could hear me just fine. So it looks like we're good now.
Yeah, we would have been none the wiser, but it sounds exciting. And again, that's happening this Saturday at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Check it out, the Monster Jam. We talked about it earlier in the program. All right, AP, OTAs here. This is the second week of those OTAs, and then next week, obviously, we get into the mandatory minicamp and get it done for the Browns, kind of for this initial portion of the offseason program. Just kind of top level, what has struck you so far at the OTAs?
Yeah, well, first things first, I mean, it was just great to see Deshaun get to work again and start, really kind of building that chemistry in Berea with all these new wide receivers. I would say the first thing that struck out to me this week was just how much crisper things kind of looked in that part of the team. I think that first week, last Wednesday, of course, it's only been 2 practices that we've had open that we've been able to see. But last week, there was a few incompletions here and there, and specifically on the deep balls. I remember seeing Deshaun take a lot of deep looks in that first practice, and not all of them were completions. And then this week, he goes and hits Marquise Goodwin on two deep shots. He's launching it again. I think it's very clear through these first 2 weeks of OTAs that they're really kind of emphasizing building some chemistry on those deep passes, which, we've talked about before, was something that was kind of lacking in the passing game at times last year. Now, they've got 2 great weapons who can help them with that. Obviously, it's Elijah Moore and Goodwin, who looked phenomenal yesterday and probably was the player of the day. So, but all in all, I mean, it's just really good to see Deshaun, building that chemistry, and better this week is seeing that chemistry really kind of take off. I mean, things just really looked a lot crisper. He was completing more passes. Things just looked a lot more smoothly. And of course, still OTAs. It wouldn't have been a big deal if things, were not always consistent. It's very early in the spring practices still, but just the fact that we're already seeing a little bit of improvement there, and that he's connecting on some of these big plays, I think is a really, really encouraging sign. And then just defensively, you just see how Jim Schwartz is going to change things on that side of the ball. Things look a little different up front with the edge rushers. They're lining up a little bit further on the outside of the line of scrimmage, but I think the thing that I like seeing most is just seeing Schwartz kind of crouched down right in front of everybody at the line of scrimmage. He said he wants to do that because he wants to hear guys communicate. He literally just wants to be right there. He wants to see how they develop when the play develops. And I really like that because, as we know, last year, the communication didn't seem like it was great at times on that side of the ball. And now Jim's coming in and he is, solidifying, making sure that is something that is not going to be a problem at all this year. He wants to hear his guys yelling during the play, before the play, making sure they're in the right spots, covering guys quickly, particularly, his linebackers when they need to drop in coverage and everything. And so I really like seeing that. It's something I think this defense needed. It's what I think everybody expected Jim Schwartz to come in and do. And so far through a couple practices, it looks like he's doing it.
Yeah, it's fun to see. Let's go back to the offense. Talked about Deshaun, hit a couple of those deep balls to Marquise Goodwin, and then the play of the day that I thought was, and Alex Van Pelt in his post-practice presser said, it gave him goosebumps, was the route by Elijah Moore where he stuttered, faked like he was going to the outside, and then broke to the inside, and the second he turned his head around, the ball was thrown on an absolute line right over the linebacker trying to undercut it right to Elijah Moore for a touchdown in the red zone. I mean, that was everything about that was pure electricity, pure joy, and just feels like it is going to be very difficult to stop. I thought that was awesome to see. And I think, you wanted to see, we've heard so much about, 4 to 8, 4 to 8, 4 to 8. Well, now that you're getting to see it, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the kind of plays that I think you rightfully can get excited about in OTAs, because obviously the setting here is a lot different. There's, guys aren't wearing pads. Sometimes play intensity is a little bit settled down. But when you can see, a new guy like Elijah come in and have Watson throw the ball, and after the ball is out of his hands, Elijah's finally turning his head and is still able to make that catch. I mean, that is a sign of chemistry really coming along really well, really quickly for those two guys. And then obviously the thing about Elijah too that's been encouraging to see is just how much they're lining him up across the line of scrimmage. I think, through the two practices, pretty sure we've seen him line up in just about every single receiver spot. We've seen him go in motion at times. Like, it really feels like he's going to be a very versatile player and a big-time player in this offense, which isn't surprising. That's why they traded a second-round pick for him.
Yep.
But just to see that things are coming along so nicely in these first 2 weeks of OTAs between him and Deshaun is really, I mean, that's really all you can kind of ask for the passing game these first 2 weeks, with just the way that the tempo is and what you can sort of expect. Just the fact that Moore and Watson seem to have such a great connection here through the two open practices we've seen so far. Really, really good sign for how things could go. When training camp rolls around, and obviously when the season rolls around.
It is exciting. Then you mentioned flipping around over on that defensive side of the ball. I thought Jim Schwartz's press conference yesterday, AP, was masterful in that he's so direct. He's such a good orator. And frankly, he said, look, we are going to play 5 down. We're going to get after the quarterback, and we believe we have the corners on the back end to handle it. And I love that. That got me excited. I just think he's just got such a command in those situations, and clearly has a command on the field as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a no-nonsense approach with Jim Schwartz. That's how he's been able to become such a great, well-respected coach in this league for the last 2 decades or 3 decades now, I think it's been. And it's really what this defense needs. There's a lot of veterans. There's also a lot of young guys. But he's a coach that I think everybody sees, when he first got here, everybody saw his resume, what he's done, and they're like, there's no doubt that he knows how to build a good defense. And the thing, too, is it's not intricate or anything. It's really, everybody's saying, all your players are saying that it's a real simplified approach. Like, defensive line, it's not like, you got to worry about plugging a ton of gaps or like different coverages or anything like that. Like, it's just find the guy who has the ball, find a way to get around your blocker and go get him. And I think that's a fun way that's what Za'Darius said he liked about the defense when he had his media availability last week after he was traded here. And I'm sure that's what Miles is going to like too. And all the, defensive linemen, that's a very easy way to go about the game. And if you're somebody who has the power and the strength and the talent to get around blockers consistently, you're going to be very successful in a Jim Schwartz defense. And, of course, with the linebackers in secondary, it's pretty simple too. The linebackers are going to guide, in a scheme like that, the linebackers are the ones who are going to just kind of clean things up in the middle. And then secondary, it's guys are going to have to play versatile roles, but when the defensive line is going to be able to eat and get after the quarterback, that's going to make their jobs a lot more fun too. So I think everybody's bought into what his schemes are going to make them do. And I mean, I'm really excited to see how things go together. There's so much talent on that side of the ball. And, then you bring in a guy like Rodney McLeod too, Za'Darius Smith, a few more veterans there that really should help shore things up at those positions. There's really a lot to be excited about with what Jim Schwartz is going to bring with this defense. And I think we're seeing some of that come together through these first 2 practices as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that, AP. And then I think we saw some things that were a little bit surprising, and maybe not, they shouldn't have been surprising, but something perhaps we hadn't seen before. And I'm going to stay on that defensive side. Denzel Ward playing in the slot. What did you make of that? What did he say about that afterwards? And I think it makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Browns. What do you think, AP?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jim Schwartz said himself when he first got here that his secondary guys aren't necessarily going to be penciled in as just an outside corner, just in a slot corner, just a nickel corner, or anything like that. Like, he's going to ask all of his guys to be ready to play different roles. And I think, one thing that stood out to me yesterday when he was talking about that again was just, who plays slot corner and who plays outside. It's all going to depend on what the other team, what weapons the other team has. If there's a big guy who's playing in the slot, maybe it makes sense to put Denzel Ward on him. Maybe it makes sense to even put MJ Emerson on him, as he's one of the biggest guys in the secondary, the biggest cornerback. He wants to make sure that there's not going to be any mismatches in the secondary, and the way you do that is by making sure that everybody can play every single position. So I think it's really good. I know Greg Newsome was the primary slot guy last year, and who knows, maybe the season will start and he'll still be the guy that we see frequently in the slot, but there's no doubt about it. I mean, the fact that we're seeing Denzel Ward already getting some slot reps there shows that Jim Schwartz isn't lying when he says that he's going to ask all of the guys in the secondary to be able to play different roles no matter where it's at. So, and I like that too. I think that's a way you can really maximize all the talent you have in the secondary, which I think is one of the most kind of loaded groups on this team. It's got great depth, guys who played really well last year, despite some of the other issues that happened on the defense. And I think Jim Schwartz isn't content with all right, you guys can just keep doing your same thing. It's no, we're going to try and maximize you guys even more, make this defense better, and have you play in different spots on the field. And that's just how this defense is going to operate. And we're going to try and be a really good defense because of that.
Talk with Anthony Poisal, AP, the Brown staff writer. AP, what do you make of all this DeAndre Hopkins talk?
Yeah, as my personal opinion, I really think it would be wise for them to at least check in on him. He's a great receiver. Everybody knows that. And when a great receiver hits the market, there's always going to be a lot of teams interested, regardless of how their wide receiver room looks. I think the challenges obviously are when it comes to cap space and when it comes to Hopkins' interest in coming here, because right now he'll be able to pick whatever team he wants. And so those are the two biggest, I guess, hurdles that kind of need to, you need to clear first before it becomes a true possibility. But I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody to hear what Deshaun said of him last week. Obviously, he would love to be back with his former teammate. He'd love to be back with his former teammate who was his best receiver when he was in Houston and was a big reason why, Deshaun was able to hit the ground running as soon as he got to Houston. So I think it would make a lot of sense if the guys in the front office there decided to check in on it. It would be obviously a really exciting move that would punctuate an offseason that's been full of other big moves all across the team. And, a lot of people were surprised to see Hopkins get released when he did. And there's going to be a lot of teams checking on him. I really do think the Browns should try to make something happen if they can, but understand that there are some steep hurdles that you'd probably have to clear to make that a true distinct possibility.
Yeah, and we just heard today that DeAndre Hopkins is interested in returning back to Houston. And when you say to yourself, well, why would he potentially be interested in returning back to Houston? Why would that come out? Well, when you look at teams and their available space to spend money, we talked about it for DeAndre Hopkins. He wants more than what Odell Beckham Jr. got. And the Ravens, I think, it might have been a little bit of a wild deal that they made there. And nonetheless, that's what happened. They gave Odell, the $15 million, and I think that changed the market. I think if that deal doesn't happen, I think he's already a Chief or a Bill. But the Texans have basically, $20 million under the cap right now. So they have an opportunity, if they wanted to bring in DeAndre Hopkins at a pretty good level. Some of the other teams with money, the Jets, I think, are a team certainly to watch as well if they decide they can move on from Corey Davis, drop $10 million there, and then trot him out there alongside Garrett Wilson. But, yeah, I think obviously it makes sense. We are going to hear from Greg Cosell actually in a little bit on our show talking about what his skill set is at this point. And I think Greg Cosell is one of the very best in the business and is spot on. It's kind of what we've been saying here on Browns Daily. All right, AP, last one, and we'll get you out of here. What are you looking forward to the most about the mandatory minicamp?
Well, the great thing about mandatory minicamp is you're going to finally see all the players back here. I'm sure we'll get to hear from Miles at some point in media, I hope, and that will be great to hear what he thinks now that he's been, a few months into learning more about Jim Schwartz, these new defensive schemes. We'll see him and Zadarius Smith back there again. And, we'll just keep seeing more of the encouraging things that we saw this week, obviously, that being Deshaun showing even more chemistry with his receivers, and I'm sure that's going to be even more exciting to watch when everybody is here. Everybody's here. There's no gaps missing. You get both the edge rushers back, and yes, they still will not be practicing in pads, but there's always just a little more buzz when everybody's back here. Just for those quick 3 days and a little more energy in practice. I'm sure we'll learn even more about what Jim Schwartz wants to do with this defense and how he plans on. Maybe we'll see other players lined up in the slot. Maybe we'll see, maybe we'll see Emerson play more in the slot. Maybe we'll see Word play even more in the slot. It's just another opportunity to learn more about what this team is going to look like when training camp and when the season starts.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be our first chance to see Nick Chubb in a while, which I think will be nice. Our first chance to see Miles and Za'Darius lined up out there together. So see the Chief, see Joel Bitonio. We're going to see a lot of the guys that are absolute pillars of this organization back out there, and I think that is going to be a lot of fun. AP, thank you so much. What's stuff that people can check out right now at clevelandbrowns.com or on the Browns mobile app that you've written about? I know you had a good one, I think, on Marquise Goodwin yesterday, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Marquis shared a truly emotional story about just why he wanted to, maximize his otherworldly athletic abilities, about his sister who has cerebral palsy and is not able to walk, but he has a couple very motivating stories from her and their time when, one of them from when he was with the Bills living with her. It's truly a fascinating story, and it makes Marquise look like an outstanding guy and somebody who's super easy to root for. But we'll keep having, all the OTA work covered. Obviously, mandatory minicamp next week will be one of the busiest times of the offseason here. We'll have you covered with every single angle on that as well. I'm sure I'll have a mailbag coming out at some point over the next couple of weeks too. So if anybody has any questions about, what we're seeing out here and what it all means, please go to the mailbag and drop in a question. Would love to answer what everybody wants to know.
All right, help AP out there getting that mailbag. AP, appreciate the time.
As always, Z, such a great time. See you.
Glorious indeed. That was our staff writer, Anthony Poisal, calling in on the Twisted Tea hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, an official sponsor of the Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. In fact, when I walked up there, that's what I said to them when I walked up to that area. I said, you guys sponsor the hotline. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. They said, oh, yeah. Oh, baby. They liked it.
My oldest, big fan.
Yeah, I bet.
Big fan of the Twisted Teas.
Delicious.
Always have to have some in the fridge.
Refreshing, especially on a hot summer day like this. Even though it's only June 1st, hot summer day, it's a real treat. What are you looking forward to the most for the mandatory minicamp?
I'm looking forward to seeing some competition in the 7-on-7s.
Yep.
Kind of, let's get the whole band in here and let's see what we got. I don't really know what else, because without tackling, the whole running game thing isn't really all there. I mean, what can you discern from that? The offensive line versus defensive line, like some one-on-ones there. I'm gonna be very interested to see what that looks like, especially given the acquisitions on that defensive line and how good our offensive line is. And then just the one-on-one matchups between the wideouts and our corners, like really kind of mixing it up. I mean, we've seen a little bit of it, but I think that it'll ratchet up here next week with everybody in the building.
Yeah, and I wonder if we'll see Amari, or if he's going to be held out until training camp, which is probably the more likely outcome as he comes back from that surgery.
So Coach on Tuesday said he's going to start doing some stuff this week and next week. They wanted him to start doing some things. So
good. Let's see it.
I was like, okay. I'll take that.
And we're like giddy right now. We still haven't seen Amari out there with the passing game. So and we haven't seen Chief.
No.
And we haven't seen Nick Chubb.
So we're gonna see some guys. It's just that the running game, it's tough until you put on the pads you can tackle.
Of course. Yeah. I don't know how much tackling there will be. Certainly none in minicamp.
No,
that's
there will
not
not
happen.
be. So just looking at the other stuff.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear Greg Cosell, great friend of our show, talk on the Ross Tucker podcast about DeAndre Hopkins and the Browns. Is there a fit there? What kind of player is DeAndre Hopkins at this point in his career? We'll have that answer for you next year on Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio. All right, we are back on Cleveland Browns Daily. Browns fans, we have reached the final round of our new dog logo contest. Make sure to let your voice be heard and vote for your favorite. You get 1 vote per day. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/dog logo to cast your vote. Told you we were going to hear from the Ross Tucker podcast. Ross and our great friend Greg Cosell breaking down the 2023 Browns. And they asked the question, could DeAndre Hopkins come to Cleveland? Take a listen.
Keep it moving to the Cleveland Browns, because they are very interesting. Deshaun Watson did not play real well, Greg.
No.
I didn't think at the
You guys are down.
They traded and signed him to be a top 5 player at the quarterback position, which I think most people would agree he probably was in 2020. I mean, he had an awesome 2020. I remember you and I talking about it a lot. Is there any way to guess or know or how to feel about how Watson will play this year, or whether or not he can get back to that point?
I would think he probably would be much closer to that than what he was last year. I mean, he's a talented player. You're 100% right. I mean, prior to what happened, he was in that discussion as a top 5, top 6, top 7 NFL quarterback. You would think he'd be closer to that. You know, offensively, they're going to have a really strong run game. Nick Chubb is still there. Their backup now is Jerome Ford, who I think will be a good backup, a draft pick from a year ago out of the University of Cincinnati. They still have Cooper, had an excellent year. I think they're kind of counting on Donovan Peoples-Jones to sort of do more than he's done, because he's got really good traits, size, speed. I love the draft pick of Cedric Tillman from Tennessee in the 3rd round. I thought after watching his 2021 tape when he was totally healthy that he was a big-time receiver prospect, and then he was hurt most of 2022, and I think that resulted in him dropping to the 3rd round. But I think, and we know about their O-line, Ross, it's one of the better ones in the league. This could be a very good offense.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here, Greg. I think the Browns are going to sign DeAndre Hopkins.
Do you really?
I'll tell you why. They have cap space. I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, after the last couple of years, I think they realize they got to make it work this year. They got to make it work with Deshaun Watson. They got to get back to the playoffs. Otherwise, Jimmy Haslam's not known for being patient. A 3rd straight losing season or non-playoff season, I don't know how well that would go over. And they have the cap space. Obviously, I'm sure Deshaun Watson wants him. I don't love their receiver. I mean, Peoples-Jones to me is more of a 3 than a 2. They have Amari Cooper. I guess it depends, Greg, on what's important to DeAndre Hopkins. If he just wants to go to the team with the best chance of winning the Super Bowl, maybe he'd go to Kansas City, or maybe he'd go to Buffalo. But I think they can convince him in Cleveland that we got a shot to go really far, and they can pay him a decent amount more money than those other 2 teams. What do you think?
Could be the case. I mean, obviously, other than Cooper, you don't have a receiver that you feel really comfortable with on a weekly basis. They did trade for Elijah Moore, another player I really like coming out of college. I don't know what happened with the Jets, but I think he has a chance to be a really good slot. But these are all unknowns as we speak today, Ross. So obviously DeAndre Hopkins is not an unknown.
No, he absolutely is not. What about on defense now that they have Jim Schwartz in there, Greg?
Yeah, it's a little different. And I think that's why the Za'Darius Smith trade was really, really important, because Jim Schwartz, for the most part, wants to rush 4 and play coverage behind it with a lot of different looks, disguise his late movement. I remember in Philly, you saw a lot of inverted cover 2, invert cover 3, a lot of different looks on the back end. But the key to all that is the ability to rush 4. And, you know, they have Myles Garrett, arguably the best defensive end in the league, rushing the quarterback. But Za'Darius Smith was really, really important because you needed that bookend. So, you know, I think that's the way he wants to play. Obviously, if you can't get to the quarterback with 4, you have to then add another
30. Sorry, 30.
But I think that's the way they want to play. I thought that the signing of Juan Thornhill at safety from the Chiefs was a really good signing. He's a very, very solid player, and he plays on the back end. So I think the mix of Thornhill as a back end player and Delpit is kind of a box player who's pretty versatile as the other safety. I think they have a really nice safety tandem.
You guys are up.
All right, that is Greg Cosell talking on the podcast, and I think, look, one of the things that the Browns are banking on is they liked Elijah Moore a lot coming out of college as well, and that he can play a big role. And early indications, again, within helmets and shorts and not pads, is that he certainly has the ability to do that. You go back and look at those final 6 games of his rookie year with the Jets, and he was incredibly productive, and that's what the Browns are hoping for. So that was there, and then Greg also, they posted a clip that I tweeted out earlier today just talking about DeAndre Hopkins specifically, and he said, look, he's not a vertical guy. He's not going to create a lot of separation, but he's very good in the short and intermediate routes. He can catch the ball while he is covered. He has a great catch radius, great hands. He's very smart at finding soft spots and zones, and he is excellent in the red zone. And so, yes, he would make us better. The fact is he wants a ton of money to do that, and we'll see. We'll see. I've said all along I thought it was more likely than not that he would sign elsewhere than with the Cleveland Browns, but the Browns will do their due diligence, and if they can come to an agreement that is mutually beneficial, then there's a chance that he would be a Cleveland Brown.
I think they were besmirching the wide receiver room a little bit. I think they were shortchanging it a little bit.
You know what? And that's okay. I obviously, we know it's well documented my affection for Donovan Peoples-Jones and what he has done in his 3 years. He got the biggest performance bonus of any player in the National Football League last year, which means based on his draft and contract status, he outplayed the expectations by more than anybody in the NFL. And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to have an excellent season this year. He likes Cedric Tillman. He loved Elijah Moore coming out. Greg Cosell is very good. Donovan Peoples-Jones last year, 61 catches, 839 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the Cleveland Browns, 14 yards a catch for his career average is 16 yards a catch. I think that he obviously is a very, very talented young man. He was the number 1 wide receiver recruit in the country. I think that he's going to continue to progress. You've got Amari Cooper, who was elite. He didn't really even mention David Njoku and the addition of Jordan Akins, I think, and what those tight ends are going to mean for our passing game. Elijah Moore, Marquise Goodwin, who is a very professional vertical wide receiver who played a role, by the way, last year. Everybody talks about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and justifiably so.
Oh, bless you.
But Marquise Goodwin played a nice role. You watched that Seahawks tape last year. 27 catches, 387 yards. He hasn't been over 400 yards since 2017, but what he does is he gives you 15-plus yards a catch more often than not. He'll give you 3 to 4 touchdowns. Last year he had 4, which tied with a career high. Of his 27 catches, 18 went for first downs. He has a long catch of 50-plus yards, or at least 30-plus yards basically every year that he's been in the league. He is a vertical threat, and sometimes that shows up in the numbers and the games and the plays that he makes, but other times that shows up in what he opens up for other people. And I think Marquise Goodwin is going to do that very effectively here for the Cleveland Browns. So, look, it's all about weapons. We like what the Browns have assembled, the way they've been able to piece it together. We still haven't seen Amari out there. I think the Browns' pass-catching core will be much better than people think. I also think, going back to something that was said to us on this show by John McClain, is that Deshaun Watson will make your players better. And we have some guys with some elite traits that Deshaun Watson, I think, will make better. And I think that is an important thing to remember, and I think that it will be ultimately an important thing for this football team. And I think people will have a very different opinion of our quarterback and our pass-catching core when this season's over. But it goes back to everything with this Browns team. And I like that we're flying under the radar. I am fine with that. I don't need anybody to be telling us, oh, man, you're loaded. Your receivers are loaded. Oh, Deshaun's all the way back. The Browns are going to go win the AFC North and all of that. There will be a time, I believe, where that will be the discourse, and we're going to then have to back it up. But historically, we haven't been so great with a lot of hype. We're better a little under the radar, and I think that's just fine with us. And you got to earn hype at some point.
Yep.
You've got to back it up, and that's why the season's about doing it.
I don't know. We have some guys that can contribute in that wide receiver room.
Yes.
And
we have the best running back in the NFL, and we have an elite tight end.
Yeah, we have a couple tight ends now.
Well, yeah, and Akins, I think, is a very underrated pass catcher at the tight end position, and he gives us the ability to run a lot of 11 personnel type of looks with actually having 2 tight ends on the field, and so that we have the ability, depending on how the other teams match that, to take advantage of it and allow that to make us maybe even a little more run heavy or not. But Akins last year, 37 catches, career high 495 yards, 5 touchdowns, career high there. He's the guy who caught the touchdown and the 2-point conversion that knocked the Houston Texans out of the first overall pick in this year's draft. So
yes, he did.
He can be a very, very productive player, and I believe that the Browns pass catching core at the end of this year, the receiving core, will be regarded differently than it is now. And again, it doesn't matter how it's regarded. What matters is what the Browns go out there and do on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and maybe even some Saturdays this season. That's what it's going to be about, going out there and proving it. But I like the chemistry they're building. I like what we have seen thus far, and people will see it. You saw clips yesterday, but in the minicamp, I think you'll see it on air, on 7-on-7s. Yes, we're a talented defense, but it does favor the offense, and we're starting to see a rhythm and the ball not hitting the ground at a much higher rate than we've seen at any time in the past with this Cleveland Browns team, and I think that's what that gets me a little bit obviously excited about this team. All right, we'll be back. We'll wrap up some of those names.
Yeah, we'll finish that out.
Finish those 5 names to look at, and I think there are a couple here that make sense for the Cleveland Browns, certainly one in particular. We'll do that when we come back here on Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet. All right, welcome back to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet. Nathan Zagura, Jason Gibbs. All right, Gibbe, let's talk a little bit about the final 5 names, see if there's anything we can do.
We continue our 10 NFL star veterans who could still switch teams this offseason. Compliments of SI now. Matt Verderami, sure. I think I've done it 3 different times. That's all right. It happens. Anyways,
Verderami.
It's sure. Nice off-season fodder.
Yes.
And we get into it now. Thing or not a thing, whether the player will be traded, be cut, or whether he'll remain with the team that he's currently with. Chandler Jones, defensive end, Las Vegas.
He had been so productive. I think double-digit sacks in 6 of 7 seasons. Unfortunately, last year, I think only 4.5 sacks opposite Max Crosby with the Raiders. I don't know. I don't know what he still has left in the tank. I think Chandler Jones, he would be somebody that would have been much more interesting without Zadarius Smith in the mix. But the Browns have Zadarius Smith, so I'm not sure. But he has run from 15 to 19 was elite. Then in 2020 he was hurt. He only had 1 sack. 2021 bounces back with 10.5. Last year just 4.5 in his first there with the Raiders. Yeah, I think he could be moved. Yes. Do I think he would be moved to the Browns? That would be barring an injury. No, I don't.
So, according to his cap numbers, do $14.2 million against the cap in 2023. Raiders could trade Jones, save $10.5 million while opening up snaps for their first-round rookie Tyree Wilson. Additionally, Jones would be a worthy trade target for a contender. An acquiring team would owe Jones only $1.16 million this year before having what amounts to a team option of $16 million the following year.
Okay.
So it makes sense from a move standpoint, a cap standpoint, I think. But we'll see what happens. Up next, defensive tackle Aaron Donald. Los Angeles Rams. Thing or not a thing, Zagura?
I mean, it should be. They're not going to do anything of consequence, I don't think.
I think they might want to get some draft picks back.
Yeah, and I think they need to do it. And now, if you go and read like the last paragraph there about the financial situation, this is one to me that if the Browns get off to a good start, if the Rams, let's say, don't and decide they're going to make a move, now I don't know if we can give them the kind of draft picks that they are looking for. That would be the question. But financially, you could make it work. And number 2, if you all of a sudden are out there with Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Zadarius Smith, you have the best defensive line in football, or certainly in the discussion with a team like the Eagles or the 49ers, and you would be – that's an all-in, we're trying to win the Super Bowl type of a move. But you could do it. It's doable.
Donald, 32 years old. Currently 2 years left on his deal, including cap hits of $26 million and $34.1 million before a void year in 2025. However, there's a lot of things that bring this number down for another team if they were to pick him up. If the Rams trade Donald post June 1st, they save $35 million over the upcoming 2 seasons, while also netting much-needed draft capital. On that front, the pick should be excellent, considering Donald's the best defensive player of his era, and would cost the acquiring team only $13.5 million and $10 million, respectively.
Right. So it's doable.
It's very doable.
It is
from
doable.
From a money standpoint.
And he is... He is
the real deal. Holy.
I mean, if you had him and Myles Garrett on the same line, I mean... outrageous. So I find that one to be interesting. When people are talking about money and, the Browns are in a position where they need to carry, I think, some money forward to alleviate what's going on next year, but it could also be being saved for something like that. And I don't know anybody out there, if I said to you, we have this amount of money, we can end up using that and picks to get Aaron Donald, or we can use that money to get DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like 100% would say Aaron Donald, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Aaron Donald is going to be a Cleveland Brown. I'm just saying that it's feasible. And I do think that he will be moved to a team trying to make that type of a playoff push.
Yep. Up next, safety, Jamal Adams, Seattle Seahawks.
Horrible contract. Who knows?
Really He's played 13 games in the past 2 years.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? And we're not interested.
Yeah, Adams do another $45 million over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Next up, speaking of teams that are in rebuild mode, Mike Evans, wide receiver, Tampa Bay.
I would be more surprised if he finishes the season in Tampa Bay than I would be if he finished it somewhere else. And we talked about his contract. It's very doable, and I think he makes a lot of sense. This guy is as consistent and as proven as it gets, 1,000 yards every single year in the league.
Base salary of $13 million.
Yep.
Final year of his contract, he's 30 years old. 9-year career, never failed to post 1,000 yards, which you had yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, he is so good. I feel like that's a team that's going to be looking for the number 1 pick, and you probably could get something pretty. Mike Evans is that good. You know that he comes in. He may not be the fastest guy, but at 6'5", he knows how to get down the field. He's great in jump ball situations. He's a big play, legit big play receiver.
Yep. Final one, Kevin Byard, safety, Tennessee. I feel like this guy's name comes up every year, whether he's a free agent, whether he's I don't know, maybe it's just because his contract number is large. He's due $28.2 million over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous amount of money.
I think that makes it almost impossible, right?
I would think. I mean, 30-year-old safety, nice trade piece to acquire.
He's a great
capital.
player. He is a great player. It doesn't make sense for us. Does it make sense for somebody else potentially? The one that makes the most sense, I think, for anybody that is trying to win a Super Bowl this year is Aaron Donald. And that is a scary prospect because there are going to be many, many teams in our – I mean, I'm sure at some point the Chiefs are thinking, hey, let's put Aaron Donald next to Chris Jones. Good luck.
Let's see what happens there.
Yeah, good luck. So the Bengals could be a team. I mean, I think anybody that is serious is absolutely going to be – I think that calls are being made about Aaron Donald.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if the Bengals would be the one after that fight where they had, remember, with the Rams that got a little bit nasty.
Yeah.
But I think they'd be able to put feelings aside in their pursuit of a Super Bowl. All right, so much more to come. We'll be back with that on Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio. All right, folks. Tomorrow, the final OTA of the Browns' 2023 offseason, and then next week it'll be the mandatory minicamp.
We have 4 days left. With that,
4 practices
a week from
left.
Right now, we will be done with the offseason program.
The first portion of it, that's right. And then training camp will start July the 22nd. Tomorrow we're going to hear from Browns offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. We'll do a little better or worse, or as Gibbe likes to call it, higher or lower, maybe even a little mailbag. Bo will be back with us.
We'll have a little fun on a Friday.
Yeah, we'll have a little fun on a Friday. So, again, we want to thank all of you for being with us here today. Shout out to the Ross Tucker podcast. And, of course, we got to end the way we started. All the love, all the prayers, all the support for the great Jim Donovan. We love you, Jimmy. The next level is next. You've been listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, a sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio right here on ESPN Cleveland.